The American University. For several centuries, our universities turned out bold thinkers who changed the world. From before the hopeful birth of our nation to the difficult struggle for equality, generations of great leaders sprung up from our nation's campuses. Traditionally, the mission of higher education has been to equip students with the tools necessary to think critically. Educators believed that a better society would result when people had the freedom to debate the great challenges of their time. Colleges embodied the very philosophy upon which our nation was founded, and educators recognized that their academic freedom was made possible by America's freedom. So when our country needed help, universities answered the call.
1,500 colleges throughout the nation are being converted to the war effort. In consultation with faculty and advisory officers, students are guided to the specialized training they need for war work. Servicemen with books, now a common sight on the campus.
My, how times have changed. In the wake of September 11th, a number of college campuses outlawed the display of American flags. Lehigh University removed the flag from school buses and told employees that displaying the flag is not allowed. At Central Michigan University, school officials forced students to remove flags from their dorm room doors. Arizona State removed an American flag from a cafeteria over worries that it might offend foreign students. And at Holy Cross, a secretary was told to remove a flag from her desk. She was a friend of Todd Beamer, who was killed on September 11th while trying to retake a hijacked plane. How did our campuses get this way? Was my old school like this? I decided to take a little road trip to Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. If you're a hardcore fan of The Sopranos, you may remember Lewisburg for two things. Jackie Aprile spent some time there in the Lewisburg Penitentiary, and Meadow paid a visit to the town to take a tour of my alma mater, Bucknell University. I loved my 4 years at Bucknell, but I've been hearing some disturbing things lately, and I wanted to go see for myself.
America is a racist, sexist, homophobic, bigoted country. Has a lot of currency here.
A lot of our students, I think, are unconsciously racist.
A few administrators have written to the local papers saying that some of us are racists,
It's not conscious, so they don't really see it in themselves.
People don't have any idea just how bad it is.
Nobody wants to admit that they're unconsciously a racist.
You hear all these things about, the evils of capitalism, blah, blah, blah.
There are still lots of Marxists studying and writing and lots of journals and things within the economics profession.
You never hear about the evils of communism. You never hear about the piles of bodies.
Yeah, imagine your typical very wealthy Bucknell student taking a course which is a critique of capitalism and often saying things like, your parents are doing awful things to people around the globe, either indirectly or directly.
Capitalism oppresses the individual. Marxism would empower the individual.
We go through the basic ideas of Marx and then updates of Marx and some of the feminist and black feminist political economy and black political economy, which kind of starts with Marxism and then goes off in different directions from there.
I'm an econ major. I've never been assigned Hayek. I've never been assigned Mises. I've never been assigned Friedman.
Black political economists and feminist political economists have improved, I think, on basic standard Marxist ideas, and that they expose the fact that Marxist ideas haven't always dealt with race very effectively, for example, or with gender.
I know one person here, ever, that I've met who has read Friedrich Hayek. One person.
Some of the most cutting-edge work in economics today is being done in feminist economics and in black political economy. So the students should be exposed, you would think, to the cutting-edge work in the discipline.
If you're required to study this stuff about Marxism and you're required to study Marx in this much detail, that is a value judgment.
We feel like they need to be exposed to this. This is really good stuff. This is stuff that they will benefit from learning, but it's going to conflict with their preconceived notions.
I feel like we only get one point of view.
If you were to look through the course book, you'd see across departments there's tons of courses on gender issues, sex issues. You can't just take general history or sociology.
In too many cases, you end up with people who turn a class that is not political and make it political. I believe it was an engineering class of some sort, and it turned into a screed about how George Bush invaded Afghanistan to build an oil pipeline across the country. This was a professor who went on about it for 45 minutes in an engineering class.
If you raise your hand and be like, "Excuse me, professor, I disagree with you," in a class where it's out of place already.
I think a lot of it's made up. I think that a lot of the bias is in the eye of the beholder.
It's not every class. You can't forget that, but it's way too often.
These are respected university professors, and they're either controlling our grades or their colleagues are.
I find when students come out of high school, they have no ability to engage in critical thinking. None. They are used to spouting back what teachers tell them.
If everyone here who's in a position of authority and is supposed to be respected is seeing these things, then of course it's going to start to sink in.
It's just breathtaking how one-sided things can be here.
Our big danger is the trustees. Our trustees have made noises every now and then about interfering in the curriculum and making sure that we have enough different perspectives.
You ought to want a full flowering of ideas and all viewpoints. It's interesting that so many folks apparently don't.
The chairman of our board of trustees right now, Susan Crawford, has, for example, said at times that we need to make sure that Bucknell has a sufficiently diverse curriculum, and has proposed maybe that we need an American Studies major, implicitly meaning American Studies should be about celebrating America. In other words, it should be a political perspective almost.
Universities used to not be like this. They didn't used to be strongholds of any particular ideological bent.
We were trained in these areas, and to have somebody who does not know our field tell us what we should be teaching is the height of arrogance.
Bucknell's thought of as pretty mainstream. It's certainly not the kind of school you'd expect to be far out there politically. So if students at Bucknell